This is Chiming In with Elyse and David. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, what do you want to talk about today?
I know we're planning to continue the conversation from last week.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I wanted to tell you is it occurred to me, we had a storm a couple weeks ago and the power went out. And I love that.
You like the sound of the generator that's making all that noise?
I hate the generator, but I love the generator because I don't have to throw the food out. But I hate the generator. But let me tell you something. The generator stopped working because the storm was so bad or whatever, so long. I don't even know why. But it stopped working for a few minutes. I loved that.
That was bliss.
Bliss.
You like the sound of silence.
Well, I love, and I always have my whole life. So that's now I like, because I don't have to hear the buzzing or the always on feeling. So yeah, another thing that happened years ago, this is very strange, but I was in my car driving and I had an electric car. So it was very, very, very quiet. And I was at a light and I had the window down and I noticed very oddly that there was no, minus the traffic light buzzing, honestly, but there was no other noise for a few moments. And I thought that was so strange because there's cars around and whatever. And I remember telling you this day was so weird because it was so still, even though in a way it wasn't. So I'm very tuned in to that. I think it's all energy. I've done a lot of work on, again, myself, but on energy work. So if that is, of course, what we're made up of and what all the things we've invented are made up of, it only stands to reason that we have to ground ourselves, right? And always, at all times, so that we don't accidentally become loose and chaotic and, well, that's what everyone is, obviously, right now.
Yeah, you're always telling me to ground myself. Get grounded.
Well, there's so much science behind it. It's actually, again, I will not bore anyone with the amounts of things I've studied, but I now understand why I study everything I study. That was one of the questions, like, when you have an interesting topic that you're curious about, do you research it? Do you research it a lot? Why, yes, I do. And again, so can other people. But yeah, that coupled with a ton of other things, I'm like, interesting.
So speaking of your passions in life and some of the things that you do, how much do you think your autism helped you in your formative years, like to get into ballet and things like that? Like, how much was that a skill that you felt?
What do you mean?
Well, I put it together when you were diagnosed, and also just thinking about those years where you had to learn and go to class when you have to be a certain type of person to love, to do a certain exercise or a certain movement over and over and over again, the same way, perfecting it, and also being really good with music and counting and all that to be able to really have an affinity towards dance and specifically ballet. And we talked about that, how much the things that you had to do for ballet were probably enhanced because of your skills and the extra that you had by being autistic. Don't you agree with that?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? I mean, someone could say, wait, how could you dance if you have this situation? That was actually asked of me. Well, I saw it as it was, it helped me. In fact, what I used to think as normal, quote quote unquote, like I said, doesn't everybody hear that? Or what I used to think of as not necessarily special or unique to me, and or a talent. I really didn't see it that way. Because of my studies of this, have come to realize that not only makes me who I am, and it really enhances every part of me. And the parts that I have trouble with in life, I've found ways to manage or delegate or ask for help. I realize that not everybody can do that. I do understand that there's many, many people who cannot ask for help, or maybe they don't think that they need help. And I do understand that the idea that I'm talking about myself in this way when there's so many other people who had childhoods that, had a different, or are raising kids who had a different level of challenges. And I'm very much aware that my temper tantrums, which I did have, and my challenges were still, on the completely other end of that.
Other people's experiences.
And I understand that. And at the same time, so much of what I've come to learn, like, for example, I have an ability to see pattern in a way that I have joked over the years that it's like the FBI in those like Criminal Minds shows, or
The
I don't
board.
know, the board, and they're putting all the things on the board. Sometimes
with the string and the labels tying things
yes,
together.
sometimes it's pinning and labeling or mapping, or just putting circumstances together, or people's personality, or the way they look, or those are the same eyes as this. Are they related?
So pattern
Whatever.
recognition.
Pattern recognition, but not just in, one place. So what I do that I've come to realize is what really serves me and helps people who come to see me for like consultation or coaching is I can see the different circumstances and see how they all relate. And it's very easy for me. It doesn't feel, again, I didn't realize that it was something other people didn't do. I think that was the biggest wake up with all of this. Over the years, I'd be like, I don't understand why people are complimenting me on this, this, and this. I really didn't understand it. My girlfriend used to say, I know you can't take a compliment. I think it's so funny, And I really went home and I'm like, why am I not taking compliments? That doesn't seem right. And then I kind of, simmered with it, marinated in that thought.
Marinated it.
Thank you. And what came up was if I did the work, if I did something and they complimented me on it, I could accept it and it was fine. But if it just was sort of like who I was, I thought that was a strange thing to do. And that's
because you are just who you are, and you're like, why are you complimenting me on that?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Why is it different? What I have come to realize, not only is that kind of a spectrum-y thing, let's just kind of say lightly, but it also is because I didn't understand that it was different. Why are you telling me I've got this awesome whatever when doesn't everybody have this awesome whatever? And I spent a lot of time in my past, what would you say, like 10 years maybe, looking at you going, what is going on? Why do they see that when they see me? I don't understand. I really didn't. And it caused me a lot of, not the compliments, but just like that concept, like, I don't understand what people see when they see me. I don't get it. I don't know why they think I'm so good at
putting clothes together,
hosting a dinner party, my photography. I don't understand. And I really didn't. Like it was like a brain fog. Like it was a disconnect.
Is it because you also were seeing things in other people, things that they were doing, and you're like, look, there's nothing special about me. I'm just doing my thing, and
You do you,
you
I
do
do
you,
me.
right? Like, why
This
are we
is
talking about
confusing.
this? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that, for example, if somebody can do math in their head, right? It's oftentimes people who are autistic have these special like math abilities. We
Talents,
see
yeah.
this. I am not one of them.
Yours went the other way.
I started off being okay, but then I don't know what happened.
But you know how to use a calculator really well.
My art side took over, and yeah, the rest is history. So, I think that those skills or it's a talent, right? It's not even a skill. Like my 2-year-old can read. My 2-year-old can, knows calculus.
Have a very good conversation, like beyond their years. Like
Yes.
we've seen people like that.
So there's sometimes these special circumstances, but and we all look at it and go, holy shit. But that's not how it feels.
It's just normal.
It just is.
It's the way it is.
Right. And I'll even venture to say that the child that doesn't speak, that doesn't have the ability to get dressed or any of that, doesn't mean that they're not in there. And that is their version. And it's very hard. Of course, I'm not going to speak to that, but that is a whole different thing. We're really not talking about that in this moment.
Right.
We're really talking about the more invisible interior ability or disability, depending on how someone speaks to it, as opposed to the outward, the visible
Right.
disability.
Do you think also when somebody pays you a compliment, because you're such a truth sayer, that when they say that to you, you have to interpret in your mind, is what they're saying even true? And in your mind, it may not be true.
Exactly.
Right? Because you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, because when I get dressed, it takes me 20 minutes to figure out what I'm wearing anyway. And they may see something different. But in
Exactly.
your mind, I don't know what you're talking about. So there's,
And for me, like, I don't know if this is even worth talking about, but like, I got dressed for me. So I didn't get dressed for you. Why are you even talking about it? Is this small talk? I don't do small talk. What's happening right now? Obviously, that's a social interaction that happens all the time. So I've been doing that my whole life, and I accept. So I have the ability to understand that these are conversations that I might have. And it just so happens that I like fashion. So I can converse. But I promise you, if I didn't, or if I, stepped a little outside of, someone else's comfort zone, they might not be talking to me with that same, niceness. And I'm aware of that. I don't know. I'm all over the place right now.
no, you do.
But you know what? Early on when we were podcasting, I had a kind of a panic moment, and it was when so many things happened, and we went ahead and stood up and recorded it. And we didn't discuss that it was sort of a collision of everything going on in my heart and in my head at the moment, because it can happen to anyone. So we didn't put that label on it then. We didn't say, this is happening because Elyse is struggling right now because, she is drained and has...
You were super overwhelmed that day.
Super overwhelmed.
I had to walk you around the neighborhood.
But I got a couple of texts from some people who listen, and one of them was like trying to help. So she was like, have you ever been tested? Have you ever thought you might have ADHD? And I might, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, since, there's a lot of signs that would be reasonable to say that I might have a combination of both of these concepts, which is why they collide in the middle, and I can't always get things done the way I think I should. There's a lot of jokes about that.
We both have ADHD, so that makes us both normal.
I don't think that's what we're talking about. But I told her, I wrote back, thank you so much. And yes, I am, you are not incorrect. There is a lot to be said for that. Like there's a lot of memes. Of course, I like memes and things I see online. My feed is filled with it. But so here's one.
And
It
you're very
says,
popular with the memes too. People love your memes.
that's true. Here it goes. Autism says, I want a plan. ADHD says, I want options. ADHD, so a combination of both, says, I want multiple plans with flexible options and a backup plan for the backup plan. And I have that screenshotted because how many backup plans do I have on a regular basis?
Oh my gosh, you're a nightmare to go on a trip with.
You mean I'm awesome because I have backup plans?
Last night, I think we spent 2 hours talking about a trip we're going on, and I'm like, and you're trying to think about things that I'm like, can't we just figure this out on the way while we're going? And you want to figure it out 2 days before we go on our trip.
Oh, yeah. So the way that looked is I need a plan of what are we going to take out of the car up into the hotel? Like if we have snacks and food and stuff that we don't really need, are we bringing those inside? And you're just looking at me like, what are you talking about? Who cares where the snacks and food is going?
You actually made me. I went into the mudroom to look for a bag.
I didn't do that. You
I
said
know,
we
because
have the bag.
You kept talking about it, and I'm like, I better just show her this bag that she needs to have to go into the hotel.
And when you walked out of the kitchen, I said, you can come back here. There's no bag. Good luck with that. And you were so sure it was in there. And what happened?
It wasn't in there. You must have cleaned out that mudroom.
I didn't clean anything. I'm just know what I'm talking about because I pay attention to detail. So don't worry. New bags are going to be here today. Amazon Prime.
Oh, thank God for that.
Okay. Anyway. So I'll just say with the dance story, back to that, since we're all over the map. I believe I just saw on, I think, Instagram, somebody is talking about the science of using dance for people and kids with autism.
So dance therapy then?
No. Sure. I mean, but no, it wasn't like clinical in that way. It was literally going why dance can improve so many things. Obviously, it connects wires in different ways in your brain and your body and your mind, all of the things, together. You have to think while you're doing, but it's also meditative in a way, right? Because you're tuning everything out in order to, so there's so many benefits. And I literally just saw this come across my feed that it combined that there is research right now being done on those two connections.
Wow.
Yeah, because then of course I scrolled the comments and there were several people who said they danced and that they are late diagnosed and that they believe that, which comes first and which helps each other. They went hand in hand.
Can you speak to recognizing other people that might be on the spectrum, that when you meet somebody, can you tell sometimes by being on the spectrum whether they are as well? Like, is that like a power that you have as well by having the...
I would say yes. I know you didn't mean to make it sound like us and them, but I would say yes, that I have the ability to sort of read an energy. So, yeah, I mean, even if somebody is moving around or stimming, that doesn't necessarily...
What does stimming mean?
Moving around.
Moving around to placate yourself, to be comfortable.
Right. So it's interesting. I grew up always noticing when somebody seemingly was nervous and their leg would bounce up and down. A lot of times it was men, and a lot of times the change would jingle back in the day when we used cash, would jingle in the pockets. You know what I'm talking about? And I remember watching people do that and thinking, are they nervous? What's going on? And now I've learned so much. I'm not so sure.
So it could also be like twirling your hair. It could be touching your
I
face.
do personally a lot of things I didn't ever know were could be considered stimming. Yes, I could be touching my hair. I touch it all the time. I actually really enjoy kind of like folding or playing with paper, like at a restaurant. So if a piece of paper comes off the straw or the chopsticks, I've noticed I play with it until I can no longer play with it, or if the waiter accidentally takes it. But I've even asked them not to.
See, that's my artwork.
Well,
Stop.
it's not artwork. It's just it's my toy. So,
Right.
but one of the stims that I learned is a stim at all that I never ever knew was even considering how I'm always constantly like touching my muscles and kind of rubbing them out. I just obviously assumed I know what I'm doing. I'm a body person. I do body work on myself at all times. I've learned that that's considered a stim. There were just a lot of things like, do you go sit on a porch with all your friends, and are you the person that goes and sits on the floor? And I was like, yes, I always do that. And I thought it was just the dancer in me that I wanted to sit on the floor. Maybe I'll stretch, maybe I'll whatever. But it was actually a question on something, like an assessment. I'm like, I mean, it didn't say porch, but yeah, it was so interesting. So everything started to kind of fall into place. What was your question again? I actually lost my train of thought.
Just whether you can recognize it in
Oh,
other
and
people.
somebody else. Yes. I would say yes, but there again, let's be cautious because everyone possesses the characteristics that are the categories on the spectrum. Okay. So everyone could say that they have some of those characteristics. Does that make sense? So the way that might look is like anxiety or social difficulty, noise sensitivity, fixations, depression, aggression, the fidgeting, the poor eye contact, right? So I see people all the time who are talking and aren't really making eye contact. And that does not mean one way or another that they are anything except thinking.
Right.
So it could mean, but it doesn't have to mean. Does that kind of make sense?
So do you think it's when a lot of things overlap and there's a bunch of things at one time that give you that clue?
Well, that's exactly what it is. I told you earlier. But here's another, version of here's a different spectrum ideas with information processing, special interests, auditory processing, routine, rigidity, stimming, we just talked about, motor skills, emotional regulation, executive functioning, right? Social, communication, sensory processing, right? So all of those things are part of it. So layer kind of both of those, spectrums, let's just say, kind of on top of each other. Those are just two versions. There's a lot of characteristics of a human and human behavior. Me, I believe the soul is still inside of all of us, no matter what our mission here in life is and what cards we're dealt with. We're all the same in that way. However, yes, when I'm around, how about you flip it the other way around? What is the joke about me when I go outside of this house?
Well, you're a magnet for other people. They come up to you and they instantly want to talk to you and connect with you.
Right. Some people have to share. I've been walking around like TJ Maxx before, and a woman comes over to me as if we're there together. I'm not kidding. And she takes her phone and she opens it up and she's like, "Do you think that this picture will look good in this frame?" Now, like seriously, like what am I on candid camera? Like I always look around. What is happening? And a lot of times my friend is with me, my girlfriend, and she just starts dying laughing because it happens all the time. So in that sense, what I'd like to say as an answer to you is that I think that I can only speak to myself, but I have an kind of, again, that sort of open door policy, that loving, accepting energy, the vibe is real. You can obviously hear that when we're having these conversations. So therefore, I believe when I'm out and about that people, kids, adults, all walks of life, dogs, you always like to bring in the animals, there is a sort of special understanding that I will give them time. I will give them the time of day. That I will not, that I'm receptive and I'm open. So does that mean that I can pick other people out? It's a yes, but it's kind of a little tricky to explain why. It's like, you know, I always feel like it's like the that image with a bunch of people walking around and there's like question marks over their head. I don't know what that's for, but can you picture that for some reason?
Yeah, like cartoon.
Yeah. I don't know what that image is in my mind, but in this sense, it'd be like there's like a certain aura or a certain light. And there are a lot of cultures and a lot of civilizations that believe that people who are on the spectrum have these special gifts for a reason. And there's a lot of discussion right now about this future with this sort of AI and the digital world, like just kind of imploding, and the people who are tapped in and can feel this extra sensitivity, right? This extra sensory, whether everyone can share it or not. Obviously, like I said, it is a spectrum, but if we can, there are a lot of people who probably fit in the spectrum. So that whole idea of, you know, the quote normal, that is dead. It is so old. If somebody uses that word, it's like, it's almost like all the words now that we're not allowed to say, you know, we used to say this, you can't say that now. You know, that's one of those words, right?
Oh, it's just not accurate either.
It doesn't make any sense. And I think that there's enough people, how we got here, why we're here, all of that is being obviously studied. There's a lot of controversy. You know, were you born this way? Is it hereditary? Is it from a medicine? You know, all this stuff. Okay. I'm not here to discuss that, although I enjoy discussing it. So feel free to write me. But I do enjoy discussing it. But this is a neurological difference, right? It's a neurodivergent, right? We're always talking about having a diverse world. Well, this is one of the ways we're diverse. And the flip side of that, I believe, is that we're also all the same. So I really believe we're all come from the same place. We all have one. You know, this is a universe, one song, right? One voice. While we're here, all of these wonderful challenges, and that's how I look at this. You know, a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned my sister Kim, who was a co-founder of A Place to Be, a nonprofit in Middleburg, Virginia. Where they use the music therapy and healing arts therapies to help people navigate and face their challenges. And that could be lots and lots of things. So we mentioned that, I think, on the labeling episode. So I went and saw one of those behind the label performances when they were in the middle of doing those in the various schools and venues. And I guess I didn't at the time fully know what they were doing when she said they had this show. And that's one of the things that makes A Place to Be a little different, is it's not just clinical work in a room with a music therapist. They also, through the use of live theater, allow the clients, and most of whom are children or young adults, to be able to experience a performance,
And most amazing shows as well. Beautiful
utilizing-
music and great, great shows.
exactly, and they utilize their clinical therapy in the show. So we don't know that. We're just watching a, amateur Broadway show that's amazing. We can't believe some of the people have clear, visible, let's say, disabilities and challenges, and we just can't believe that they're up there doing all this. It's amazing.
The most amazing thing to see a child that can only say one word, say that one word
Beautiful.
during the show. It just
Yes.
brings you chills every time.
I have chills. So I didn't know all of that, and we went and saw her, and I was in the audience watching this behind the label show where the theme song was created by a young lady who has cerebral palsy. So she's in a maxed out wheelchair, and has full-time support and help to live and to get around and to do basic functions and needs and whatnot. And her name's Amy, and she came up with the line that we all live under the same sky. I'm crying.
And you put that on your license plate, didn't you? Same sky.
I did. So I was in the audience of this production, and each of those kids started singing this song. I can't even get through this. And I had a visceral reaction in the audience. I literally thought if I really let it go, I was never going to stop feeling emotion. It wasn't like just crying. It was something from the depths of my soul. And I couldn't understand it. I mean, what they were doing was unbelievable. And I looked over at my mom, and bless her heart, she was just enjoying the show like the rest of, the audience. And I was like convulsing, and I was really kind of worried that I wasn't going to be able to stop. So I was like doing everything I can to control myself. And I could not understand what was happening. These people were sharing their differences publicly, and they, again, some clear, but most of them not. And they would hold up a sign that said anxiety or autistic or traumatic brain injury or fetal alcohol syndrome, Tourette's, bullying. They all had, it doesn't have to be, a diagnosis, but they all had what they were dealing with behind the scenes, things that we don't see and know about them that, again, do we need to tell each other those things in order to love someone, or can we just love?
We shouldn't have to.
And then if you do tell, maybe it will help someone to understand. So it's such a back and forth. It's so fluid. And I had such a visceral reaction. And only in very recent years did that whole idea come to my mind of why it was just so overwhelming for me, because they were living my life.
You were on the stage. You were on the stage with a sign.
I mean, I can't even hardly get through telling you and describing it because it was so incredible.
So they were doing what you wanted to be able to do all those years.
Well, I didn't realize that was what was going on. I didn't even know it for myself, but I just took it as anything. Like we all keep things to ourselves, and how beautiful it is to be that authentic and so true, not only to yourself, but to the world, and to be unapologetic and to just be who we are. Why? I've never understood why anybody cares about anyone else's choices, why we can't just all be. Okay, different topic, but I never can understand that. So here was sort of like the epitome of what if life, and they were giving that to this amazing audience, and all the kids all around that whole region got to experience this.
God, I wonder how many other kids watched that and felt that same way. Like, you all are doing what I need to do. You're able to express.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder how many people are keeping their truth behind closed doors because they're afraid.
Right.
And so there's a term called masking.
So tell me about that. I know that's got to be incredibly draining to basically masking, which would be to basically hide these feelings that you have to make yourself more quote normal, to fit in with groups of people or a conversation.
Or hold a job.
Right. So you're holding it together, not showing these emotions and feelings that you might have. You've already expressed a couple of maybe a sensitivity to noise or to smell or something. And
Fluorescent lights.
right. So you're like holding it together all day long in an environment that has got to cause so much stress to a person to be able to do that. And then they were probably exhausted by the end of the day.
And I'd like to say that maybe a lot of people feel that way. Some of the things that we have, that we live with, that is considered kind of normal society or normal environments, are really not friendly to us as humans. And I am a really big proponent of making those changes so that schools take out fluorescent lights or cover them with something if they can't, switch them out to something else. Mm-hmm. Or, that you have natural light whenever you can, maybe plus just not those buzzing, by the way, terrible light that give a lot of people headaches. And I don't know how we're supposed to have our kids go through all of the same stuff that a lot of us went through when we know better now. So just let's do it. Let's change it up. I think that masking is a necessary component when someone even has the ability to know that they are using it. When you choose to put the mask on a little bit. I wish it didn't have to be that way, for sure. I wish everyone could just unapologetically show up as mentioned. That would be a dream. But in real life, I think that it's okay to find ways to maneuver through society. And so if there's fluorescent lights and you have to be in them, maybe you can wear a hat, or maybe you can wear glasses or something, that you can find ways to cope. Not because I'm sorry that we have to, I am, but it's also okay. And you know what? We'll just sort it out. You see people with headphones on all the time these days. So, is that normal? Is it not? Is someone listening to music, or do they need to actually cancel out the rest of the noise? Who cares? Who flicking cares?
Right. Well, and there needs to be a certain amount of grace to allow people to be themselves and be comfortable.
The sticky thing with masking is that can be really detrimental and harmful. And it is not just draining. It is literally sucking the life out of somebody. Their immune system fails. All sorts of things can happen.
Depression.
You can imagine if you don't have the ability to sort of fight against the need to show up a certain way. I'm really torn because I realized that it wasn't that I was masking all the time. I just didn't know what I needed. And so when I figured out what that looked like, now I can be more myself and feel more open. But I can also make choices, and sometimes I don't feel like it. And it's not really a mask. I don't know. Do you think it's a mask for me? It's just I think of it as almost a tool.
I think that it's been a progression for you. I think that there was probably a lot more acting a certain way that was uncomfortable before. And I feel like now that you understand yourself and you've gone through
But can I ask you a question? And
yes.
You're not a good person to ask probably, but doesn't everybody to some degree do that? Like everyone's trying to just socialize and fit in and connect with other humans. So aren't there so many times in life that you people are not really just putting it all out there? You kind of have a persona and you kind of wear it.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt it doesn't hurt other people
How
as
do you
much.
know? What if it does? How do you know?
What I mean is that,
What if it's causing depression and anxiety?
I mean, it can, I guess.
I'm not
Nobody
saying it does.
knows.
I'm saying what if? So what if? What if that is part of why somebody else feels so drained and so exhausted? And why did I even do that? Because they weren't being true to themselves. And maybe somebody who's, on the spectrum knows or can't even do that, just knows I can't. And if they're forced to do that, if they're forced to go to the next social setting or event or environment that isn't conducive, or go to a job that doesn't give a break, a proper break or whatever. I mean, if you don't know what you need, because we weren't taught to think about what we need, we were just put into situations, and if it didn't work out for you, then you're getting sent to the principal's office. Then you're getting expelled. Then you're getting in trouble with whoever because you're not
Following the rules.
following something. And
I
you
felt
come
like-
across like you're perfectly, quote, normal.
I
There is
felt like
no
that,
normal.
That happened to me. We were talking about this a couple of episodes ago about me writing and drawing in class. But another thing that I did was I wanted to be the class clown because I wanted the attention from my classmates. So I would constantly make everybody laugh, and it disrupted the class. And the teachers, some of the teachers who didn't have control over the class to begin with, just sent me to the principal's office over and over again. And it got to the point where the principal told me, 3 strikes are out. And if you come here again, you're going to be out. And it happened a third time because it was me. It was just me being me. And
Well, you started that whole story off saying you were trying to get attention. Could you say that that's true? Like, is that really what was happening? Or were you just not, you had impulsivity?
I had impulsivity control.
issues.
But my motivation was I was looking for affirmation from friends. That was the reason. I wanted their positive attention.
And I get that. And that is a pretty typical need, right?
Right. But I was just doing it in a way that was apparently disruptive to the teacher, and they did not feel like they had control over the class to begin with. So they sent me to the office. And I just remember feeling shame and just horrific. And now that I look back on it, I realize that I was not really able to control myself. It wasn't my fault. It was something that I had a need for. And now I get to forgive myself for that.
Aw.
Yeah.
I was at an event the other day, and it was very quiet in the audience, a group of 8th graders, like 300 8th graders. And the speaker was giving a very serious presentation. And all of a sudden, it sounded like some kids were laughing. So at first, I was like, oh boy, this is a very well-behaved school, too. So I was a little surprised, but it came across the room, so I wasn't sure. And then it stopped for a second. Well, then it continued and continued. And I realized that, I didn't even turn to look, but I was pretty confident by a few times in that somebody might have a challenge. They might have Tourette's. They might have a challenge, and there's a sort of a noise coming from over there. And perhaps it made some kids laugh in the beginning. I don't know. But after a while, that was like sort of a sound that just kept happening. And most people didn't turn to look, which was beautiful.
That's really beautiful. I find that when I'm in a performance of some sort and there's some sort of disruption that happens, I'm always kind of nervous about how that's going to land on the audience, and the fact that everybody was just ignoring it and realizing that somebody was having an issue and they were just going to just basically disregard it. I think that's really, really beautiful. How did the speaker handle it? Did he just ignore it?
Nope. Just kept going.
Yeah. I mean, I love that.
It was perfect. It kind of reminds me, I just want to kind of wrap this up, I think. The word autism, if you break it down, it comes from the Greek word autos, meaning self. And the ism part means, it implies a condition or a state of being. So when you think about that together in its purest form, it means a state of being oneself. In other words, I implore our listeners to spread the word that neurodivergent qualities, neurodivergent people don't have a disease, right? It's a state of being. It's a neurological processing difference. It may be looking at things from the bottom up and differently from you. It may be. It may not be. And the acceptance of our differences is, again, what makes a beautiful world. And I will tell you, we all go through life with this little inner voice. We've discussed a little bit, the inner critic, that self-loathing. People who are autistic feel that way too. So how can we show someone that the way that they show up, and if we're using that definition of autism, they just are. Everyone is
Right.
just is.
Accept
So-
them the way they are.
Right. I think most people at a very young age realize that we have to put some parts of ourselves into a special place that very few, if anyone, ever gets to see. So we're hiding, or the other word, masking. I think that is probably the way a lot of people, all walks of life, go through. And we feel like we have to do that in order to be accepted in the world.
Yeah, this fear.
And so, exactly. So when we see someone who is clearly defined as an autistic person interacting with the world, who isn't hiding, who doesn't mask, you're absolutely right. There is this little thing that's like, wait, what? We don't do that. And in some of us, it goes, oh, God, I wish I could do that.
And it's a beautiful thing.
So just food for thought. I just want to say just one last couple things. Housekeeping notes. We're not doctors. You're a lawyer. What are we supposed to say? Disclaimer, legal.
Yeah, we don't know what we're talking
Amen. So yeah, we're really, truly just talking. That being said, I found a lot of helpful information on embracingautism.com back when I was especially looking into how this related to myself, people in my family, whatever. And so that is a wonderful website. I am happy to answer questions, and I want to also just remind, if you think you know someone, you probably don't, and we could all stand to be showing up with our whole selves a lot more like the autism community.
Amen.
And if you're a woman and anything I'm saying resonates and you're like, what the hell? That is also because people who are female, who are also autistic and on the spectrum, are often not seen. And it is a much different diagnosis story when it comes to neurodivergence and being female, because the initiation of this condition, we'll say, was looked at as a young boy. So that was the original medical information.
So that's changed now?
Well, of course, but it's still extremely hard, I think, for a female person. I just think it's difficult, and I think that I think it looks different on both male and female. It doesn't look the same. It's just period. Again, I don't want to go down. I'm being cautious on what I'm saying right now. So
Right.
you do the research like I did the research. It looks a little different, and shows up a little different. And, you know, I think that at the end of the day, why we got into this, that normal does not exist kind of thing, I'd like to just say that we all know that this normal you speak of doesn't sound fun at all. My favorite quote.
That's right. It's much more interesting to have diversity of souls and people, and
That's why we're
acceptance.
here.
Yeah, we got to accept. Well, thank you all for listening, and please give us feedback. And if you liked our show, please share it with others and rate it and review it. And you can always reach us at chimingin911@gmail.com.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Now he's going to say, see you soon.
See, I'm not going to say that. You think I'm predictable.
Now
I'm
you,
not going to say
now
it.
everyone knows why it bugs me,
That's right.
because I'm kind of literal.
There you go.